Hey guys, so sad Valentine's Day for me. I've been sick all day and I hadn't even come down here. It's like 2 o'clock now. Um, and I noticed that my little red boy, or one of my two little red boys, has snapped his ray. It's what's called blown, we call it blowing fins. But basically what happened is the rays in his tail, the little bony parts, somehow they got broken. And when they get broken, the webbing between them rips off. So you can see that big chunk is missing. And if you look closely, you can see there's other rays that are broken too that look like little white spots. That's where the bone is broken and you're basically seeing through the fin. So it's probably looking like I'm gonna lose a big portion of his caudal, which is really sad because he was turning out to be a really nice fish. Now he's gonna have to go to a pet home because I don't breed fish that blow their rays when they're so young, because that's telling me that he has really weak bones. Now, I'm not saying that's genetic. It could totally be something in his diet. These fry were ones that were from a spawn that I thought I had lost the whole spawn, and then I find a couple fry in the tank later and toss them in with another spawn. So they're already a little bit behind. They might have gotten some nutritional deficiencies for a week or so, you know, when I didn't think I had any fry left in a spawn. So I'm not completely convinced that the weak rays are genetic. There is a genetic component to it, but I'm hoping that this is just a one-off case. I have his little brother right here, who was the big, or not, I shouldn't say big, he was the littlest runt, and he's, you know, much smaller if we look at them side by side, and his fins are only just starting to grow out, but he's definitely a boy. So hopefully he will turn out nicely and his fins will grow up and be strong and I can breed him. But it's always a big bummer when your fish lose their fins like that. And the worst part is I don't know what caused it to break. I'm hoping it wasn't me. You know, did he get caught in my hand when I moved him back into his jar after I cleaned his jar? Or did he just do it flaring? There's not really any way to know because I didn't notice this right away. I'm not sure when exactly he broke the rays. So, always sad. It can happen though when you're doing water changes. You get a bit of their fin caught and they just break. There's a male on the other side who's, I ripped a tiny piece of his fin off accidentally doing a water change because he jumped out and I had to pick him up off the floor. And when I picked him up off the floor, his a piece of his fin broke off. So might be my fault, might be just him, you know, flaring too much. Who knows? But it's pretty sad. So, you know, it's just one of the downsides of breeding long fins, and that's the reason a lot of people lately in the last few years have just switched over to placots. Even people that have been breeding half moons for years start breeding placots and they figure out how easy it is, and they just kind of give up on the long fins. Me, I love the long fins, and I don't think there's anything in the world that could ever make me fully give up on breeding them, because when they're nice, they're really nice. Like this turquoise guy, he's really nice. Except he's not turning. My mom actually bought me this boy at Petco. She knows how much I love turquoise and blue bettas. And I think she thought I could use him for breeding. And he does have really great color and his form isn't too bad. But the only thing is his body's kind of short, which is a problem that happens in double tails. And because of that, I'm not even sure he could breed. I think his body is probably too small to wrap a female. So he's just a well-loved pet. I'm actually going to be moving him upstairs. I have several little tanks throughout my house upstairs that have retired breeders and older fish, and a couple, you know, Petco finds that, you know, just can't leave. I try really hard not to buy a lot of fish from the pet stores if I can't help it. If I see a really good one that I can breed, I'll buy it, but I try to leave the ones that aren't breeding worthy but just super cute there, because I have plenty of fish. I don't need to be buying a bunch that I'm not going to use. This guy bummed me out. This is one I raised last summer, and for some reason he got sick. You can see his fins got all tattered up. Even though I was doing water changes, he wasn't looking good. And then the last couple days he's just perked up. He's got a bubble nest now. His color's back. He's not laying on the bottom. He's flaring, but his fins are torn up. So that's pretty much means I'm not going to be able to show him. And I'm probably not going to breed him. He's got gorgeous color, and his form before he, I know it's hard to see with the flash. His form before he broke his fin isn't that bad actually, but he has super long fins in proportion to his body size, and this is something that I kind of feel strongly about. I don't want fish that have fins longer than their body length, because if you have a fish, let's look at this little guy with the short body again. If you have a fish whose fins are so long and his body is short or his body is thin, he can't hold up those fins for his entire life. Eventually, he's gonna start having trouble getting around. He's gonna have to be put into a smaller tank, and you know, or I'm gonna have to trim his fins. And I've done that before. It doesn't hurt the fish, and it's actually better to trim a fish's fins and give him back his mobility than to just let his fins, you know, deteriorate and curl and rot off because he can't get around. And even worse, they will bite their fins off. If they're having extreme trouble with their fins, they will bite their fins. So that's something I try to avoid, and I will trim them. But yeah, so you can see, even though his caudal is mostly gone, you can just see by how long his anal fin is and how long the pieces that are left of his caudal are, just how long his fins are. And so in comparison, his body is relatively small and short, and because of that, I was never really planning to breed him, because he's just not got the body shape that I want to breed for. But I was thinking he would make a nice show fish, but now that he's ripped up his fins, he's not going to do that. So I'm not sure what I'll do with him. Maybe sell him. Maybe just keep him. I'm kind of attached to him. He's the only survivor from a spawn that a friend of mine gave me the fry. My friend did the spawn, and then he decided, you know what, I have too much going on. I can't take care of these fry. And he said, do you want them? And they were about 3 weeks old at that point. About the same age that my fry are now, that I'll show you a little bit later. And I said, sure. So I took them and I put them in my tank, and this was the only one that survived. When you move fry that are that young, there's really high likelihood that they're not going to survive. And sadly, he was the only one that survived. But he turned out really nice, so it was kind of a bummer that he ended up getting sick and messing up his fins like that. Now, when we're talking about a body shape and fin length that I love my new fish from Kyle. If we get them to start flaring, you can see that their bodies in proportion to their fin length is kind of, it's more symmetrical. It's more balanced, in my opinion. These guys have nice thick bodies, and their fins are not excessively long. I don't see any reason why these guys can't hold up their fins their entire lives. I don't see any reason that any of these guys should ever have problems with their fins. Now, this steel guy has a lot of branching. He's almost on the verge of being a rose tail. So maybe as he gets older, his fins will get more heavy and he'll have trouble. But that's just something we have to wait and see about. This Milano, on the other hand, he's perfect in my eyes. Not his color, and I could go into details about, how he'd be judged and IBC standards and all that, but in my eyes, in my personal opinion, he is just about perfect as far as balance goes. So his fin length, his, the amount of branching in his fins, all of that. I adore this male. I can't say enough about these fish, and I'm so grateful to Kyle for thinking of me when he found this male in his spawn. He sent me the picture of this male and said, "Do you want this fish?" Because he knows I love Milanos. He said, "I had you in mind," and as soon as I saw him, I knew I had to have him. He's just wonderful. And then he sent me this steel male for free as a surprise, and I love him just as much. So gorgeous fish. But that's just a little bit about my kind of opinions on fin length and body structure, and it's something I really, really strive for when I'm looking at my half moons. I don't want a fish that has, 3-inch long fins is amazing to look at, but they're amazing for 4 months. I don't want a fish that's only amazing for a short period of time. I want a fish that is amazing for its entire life. So that's my little rant about that. It's something I'm very passionate about, as you can probably tell by the fact that I've just been going on and on about it. But so anyway, we'll go look at a few fry. I just saw this little guy and I got really bummed about it, but I figured it was a good teaching moment about breeding half moons and some of the downsides to breeding half moons and keeping half moons and keeping them in good condition for their whole lives. So let's go look at some fry now. Okay, so the fry are looking pretty good. If I can get it to focus. They're hungry. Like I said, I wasn't feeling good today, so I haven't fed them yet. So their poor little bellies are empty, but I'm about to give them their brine shrimp. But I haven't done a water change on these guys in a couple days. I did some reading, and I've been talking to a few people about the theory of growth stunting hormones. You hear this a lot when you're researching how to breed bettas. Everybody tells you need to change water every single day, otherwise the fish emit growth stunting hormones and your fish will grow slow. Well, I'm starting to wonder if that's actually even true. Sadly, there's not a lot of studying being done on bettas, so we have to look at studies of similar fish and kind of make inferences based on what other fish, how other fish behave, and what they do, and our experiences as breeders. So, looking for some copper babies to show you. They're usually hanging out back here by the sponge filter. And there's one way back there in the dark. But some of the theories I've been hearing is actually not the case that they emit a growth stunting hormone, but rather maybe stocking densities have an effect on how fast they grow, or other things. But the gist of it is there's probably not actually much benefit to doing such large water changes every single day. So I'm going to be experimenting a little bit with backing down on my water changes and seeing how my growth rates are. If the fish grow the same rate as they are when I'm doing daily water changes, then that's going to tell me that I'm just doing work for no reason and wasting water. If they grow slower, that's going to tell me that there is something in the idea of doing daily water changes. So, but no matter what, I always test my nitrates. I test ammonia occasionally, but not very often, because all of these sponge filters are extremely well cycled. So I'm going to be doing, in the coming weeks and months, I'm going to be doing a lot of playing around with water and water parameters, and just seeing what I can do to get the maximum growth from my spawns, and also the survival rates, because the survival rates are what I've been really having trouble with since I moved to this house in Virginia. I always get these die-offs around 2 weeks old. I don't know why my camera's having such a hard time focusing today. These are the Dumbos. They're looking pretty good. So, that's just a little bit on the babies. And, oops, sorry, it's all blurry. And, you know, what's going on with them and what my plans are as far as figuring out water changes and figuring out, you know, how to really maximize my time and effort with growing these fry. I don't breed for, I don't breed to make money. I don't sell a lot of fish. And I don't breed for quantity. I only breed for quality. And part of that is trying to figure out, there's a really big guy right there. Look at him. Part of that breeding for quality is trying to figure out how to best maximize my setups and get the best growth rates and get the best survival rates, and really, you know, kind of key in things that I can do better. Because even though I've been doing this for a while, and, you know, the way I've done it has led to adult fish, which I consider a success, you know, I always feel like there's more room for improvement. So that's all for today. Just gonna do a little bit in the fish room today, and then maybe tomorrow I'll do like some deep cleaning on these tens. I still haven't taken down this tank yet. I put some potassium permanganate in there a couple times, so I'm pretty sure anything in there is dead, but I'm still going to take it down and completely, you know, disinfect it from the fish lice and all that. Just have been feeling cruddy the last couple days, so I've been not doing as much in the fish room as I normally do. Looking at Cheekies. So far, so good. She looks like she's got a little bit of fungus or something on the side of her head on that other side, so we'll definitely do a water change and probably put some more meds in there. That could be, though, she might be scratching it on this plastic plant. I'm going to take those plants out and see if that's the problem or if it is some kind of fungal thing going on. But you can see that kind of white thing hooked onto her head right there. Oh, she's lucky I like her, because she has been a big pain in the butt as far as getting healthy. Big pain. So, alright, that's gonna be all for today. Wow, look at him. He's showing off. He wants a girlfriend. Got his bubble nest all ready. I was planning to do some spawns, but I missed a couple days of feeding, or not a couple days, but I missed a couple days of feeding really well. I was only feeding like once a day, and I really want my fish well fed when they're about to go into spawning. So since I wasn't feeling good and I missed a couple days where they only got, a few pellets thrown at them, um, giving them another week to kind of get really well fed before I spawn them. I'm going to be spawning this female and my old Milano double tail. I ripped his fin on a water change the other week. I feel so bad. This guy is over a year old now, so I'm not even sure if I'm going to be able to get him to breed, but he really likes this girl who's the mother of the pastel fry that are 3 days old. So hopefully I can get a spawn out of him, because he doesn't look like much now, but in his prime, he was a really nice looking fish. Oh, there he goes, starting to flare. And then I'm going to be trying to spawn these reds, which are the parents to the little guy that broke his fins. Dad's fins have held up really well, except for the fact that he's been chewed on a little bit by his wife. But as far as his rays, they haven't broken or anything, so I'm hoping it's not a genetic issue with the weak rays. But I'm going to try to spawn them again too. So, alright, now I know I've said that's all like 4 times now, but that's really all. I will talk to you guys tomorrow, and happy Valentine's Day.